Gasket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around, we're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force it off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at him.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As that's still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
No back into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh,
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Well, the whistle-stop tour for the High Point Racing GT World Challenge season number 10 continues. Live here on the Racer Nexus broadcast network. As, well, last week we visited the Netherlands and to Circuit Zandvoort off of the North Sea coast. But we are here in the Sunshine State, good old Miami, Florida, for round 4 here at the Miami International Autodrome, located just at the home of the NFL's Miami Dolphins and the former home of one of their most famous quarterbacks that ended up going into an acting career, of course, the legendary Dan Marino. But based just around the Hard Rock Stadium, this circuit opened back in May of 2022. Is also the home of the Formula One Miami Grand Prix. Measures just over 3.3 miles, 5.4 kilometers, and has 19 turns in total. Hello, everybody. Alex Goldschmidt with you on the mic, and behind the scenes, our producer controlling the cameras and providing the wonderful pictures in both glorious sound and vision, Sagar Bakshi. What's more, 4 rounds at this point. Another 6 to go after here, so let's give you a reminder of the format. Currently underway halfway through the 15 minutes qualifying session for all 3 categories, Pro, Pro-Am and Am, and each of the race winners will be gunning for a victory heading into the halfway point of the championship season next week. More to the point, it is a 60-minute sprint race with a mandatory pit stop. All drivers have open setups, mandatory pit stop because of 60% fuel limitation, and 1 fast repair at their disposal. More to the point, thank you to everyone watching on the Racer Nexus broadcast network. Before we get underway with the action on the track side with just over 8.25 minutes completed, let's remind you of our respective sponsors of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge season number 10. First of all, Hymo Setups, providing professional sim racing setups used by HPR drivers and are used to help to elevate the quality and the standard of racing. Next up, those crazy guys at Monster Designs, providing fantastic and sometimes wacky custom race liveries, professional designs and branding for drivers and teams. Also, our good friends at Admin Box cannot be forgotten, and it is an organizational tool assisting with the support of broadcasting and operations. It helps race control do their job and supports both league operations and structures. Next up, Smile Theory, based out of Monmouth County, New Jersey. Advanced cosmetic and implant dentistry, providing smile design, veneers, Invisalign, dental implants with natural results. And last but certainly no means least, Colorist Art Supplies, also based out of New Jersey, offering high quality materials, professional custom framing and expert-led art classes for all skill levels. But with just over 5 minutes to go, things are looking very, very close indeed. But more to the point, that we do have the 2 Ferraris that have been really much the tour de force in terms of the qualifying side of things. It's the 200 force Ferraris. Dan Griffin in the number 101 in the Pro Division currently leads time qualifying by nearly a quarter of a second over the man that seems to be running away with things at the moment, Nick Maynard in the number 100 sister car. Of course, the 100 force drivers up until late were using the GT3 Evo 2 variety of the biggest competitor to the Cavallino Rampante. That was the Raging Bull with the Lamborghini Huracan from Sant'Agata Bolognese. But Dan Griffin leads the way ahead of Nick Maynard. Christian Ruiz in the number 7 Ferrari rounds out the top 3 as we ride on board with him at the moment. As you can see, very much a lot of sweeping corners around here, and he has gone with the Miami style livery on his 296 GT3. Of course, on the flashers as he is heading down the very, very long part of the circuit through turns 8 and into 11 at high speed at over 150 plus miles an hour. It's going to be on the brakes very shortly from around about 160 in 5th gear all the way down the gearbox to 1st gear, about 55 miles an hour on the apex of turn 11, and then of course the big hiccup that could catch some drivers out coming up very shortly through the big old dipper, so to speak. It's not exactly the biggest dipper because the circuit is only 32 feet above sea level, but nevertheless, Christian Ruiz now starting to get a little bit of a draft down the backstretch out of turn 16 before the tight right-hand hairpin at the end of the backstretch, heading into turn 17. Bit of an invert in comparison to what you would see at the Shanghai International Circuit in China. But Christian Ruiz in 3rd place, currently leading, well, get this for an interesting development. Ken Clodin in the number 6 Ferrari is leading the way in the Pro-Am division. That is going to be ahead of Carlos Ruiz Padilla in the number 20 BMW, champion last season in season 9. But he has been hoping at some point or another to hit the top step of the rostrum. Meantime, in AM itself, it is the number 88. It looks like Chris Edwards in the Mercedes-Benz that is leading the way in the AM. In the well, it's actually Jim Peel that is leading the way in the AM division. Actually, Jim Peel is actually in Pro-Am, if I remember correctly. So Jim Peel at the moment running on a 1:56.651. But Chris Edwards still holding on to that lead in terms of the GTD AM side of things, ahead of Nicolas Lancier's. Andrew Davis, who's been at the sharp end in the AM the classification in the number 25, goes up into 19th overall, and just a fraction behind Chris Edwards. So there we see a big thank you to our producer Sagar behind the scenes. Normally is on the mic, but of course this is the way that we did things back at Imola, with a lot of craziness going on at the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. Hopefully looking good. And that was, if anyone might remember that race, there was madness, there was chaos, there was bedlam, there was incidents and accidents, hints and allegations. But nevertheless, still a lot of drivers managed to get through it and breathe a collective big sigh of relief once the dust had settled in that part of the Italy. Nevertheless, we are coming down to the final just under 60 seconds in the session. Chris Edwards back in pit lane. Carlos Ruiz Padilla at the moment is trying to close a nearly 0.2 of a second disadvantage to Ken Clodin, who is currently P8 at the moment. So at the minute, as things stand, Dan Griffin leads the way, but Nick Maynard has been able to improve his lap times, but at the moment, can he go quicker than a 5:54 that his teammate has done? But of course, last time out at the Netherlands, Dan Griffin had a race to forget And with this championship running over a 10-week span with a mid-season break, well, Dan Griffin has got to come back. But it looks like Carlos Ruiz Padilla not close enough. His last effort was just a tenth shy of his best effort so far in this session of 1:55.980. Just under 2/10 shy. But, well, Donald Powell in the 86 has just tagged the barriers with the front end of that mid-engined flat plane crank V8 powered Leviathan from Motor City Detroit. But of course, Will Atom in the number 14 car is all the way down in 17th overall, and more to the point, he is right down the order in terms of the Pro-Am division. So the checkered is effectively out for the session. Nick Maynard, well, he's come out for a lap, but I think, well, he's not going to get any further opportunity to get through and improve on his lap time. That is going to be pretty much the death toll being sounded, if you as long as it's the death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey or Excellent Adventure. Sagar whispering sweet nothings into my ears there, trying to put me off my words, and thank God I actually shut up at the same time there, folks. But nevertheless, qualifying has concluded here for round 4 of the series, and it is Dan Griffin 404, so the number 101, that puts it on overall pole position. And bearing in mind, Ferrari rolling the roost in the Pro Division, top 3. Covered by just over 0.35 of a second. The next best represented manufacturer by the man from Brazil. 589, Xavi Santos. Ryan Anderson in the CrowdStrike BMW rounds out the top 5 as we go over to the 60-minute session for our 4th race out of the 10-week campaign. The best 8 scores will go towards the total standings at the end of the championship, and those winners will get $30 in their back pocket and an entry to season number 11. We're starting to get ready for the grid for round 4. Dan Griffin and Nick Maynard, the 100 Force duo, line up on the front row of the grid. Christian Ruiz and Xavi Santos round out row 2. Next up, Ryan Anderson and Jace Larson complete the top 3 rows, followed by Henry Fenson and Laken Shaw, who complete row 4. Ken Clodin and Carlos Ruiz Padilla round out the overall top 10 and the top 2 in Pro-Am. Nicholas Lafrance and Nicolas Sanchez round out row 6, ahead of Donald Powell, and the man representing the Isle of Man by the way of the USA, Jim Peel, round out row 7. Scott Farrell and Thomas King round out row 8. Will Atom and our pole sitter in Am, Chris Edwards, round out row 9, completing the top 20. It's the Pro-Am entry, the 22 Ferrari of David Henry, 25 Aston Martin of Andrew Davis. Nicolas Lancier's in the 51 Porsche, Ted Seidel in the 53 Lamborghini Huracan, Ian Morrison in the number 18 Mercedes, Matt Mitchell from Canada in the number 69 Lamborghini, and the man giving all the McLovin to the Acura NSX, Mexico's Edgardo Gomez in the 37, brings up the rear of the field. One of the big things here about the Miami International Autodrome, it's very tight, very technical, fast sweeping corners, and there's a couple of good opportunities coming through out of turn 8 and heading through in towards turn number 11 where you really build up speed. But then of course the backstretch heading into the final sector down from turn 16 to turn 17 where you're going to be stretching out the rev limiter on every single gear as you shift up and you go full throttle to around about 165 miles an hour before hitting the brakes and dropping it all the way down from 6th to 1st gear. But it is time for the talking to stop. Time for the racing to begin. And with it being an all Ferrari front row, well, I'm sure that's something that hopefully in the not too distant future, depending on how long the 7-time Formula 1 world champion that is Sir Lewis Hamilton sticks alongside Charles Leclerc at Scuderia Ferrari, you never say never. But we've got our own version here in terms of sports cars. This is where the drivers are going to now have to make their tyres as hot as possible, get the brakes ready to be at being able to stop on a dime the minute you put that brake pedal through the floor. But Dan Griffin wants redemption after last week at Zandvoort. Maybe this could be his time to shine, but nevertheless it is overcast here at the Miami International Autodrome. Air temperature 73.4 Fahrenheit, track temperature 77. So we're looking in the just under 25 degrees centigrade bracket for both. But these drivers will be put under the kibosh for 60 minutes here at Miami. Well, the pace car leading the field around, the M2 Cup car. Of course, in seasons past, we've seen the 911 Porsche safety car. We've even seen a pace truck at one point, especially if you like your ovals or your oval racing, your NASCAR trucks, maybe even on the dirt ovals as well. But the drivers will very shortly get themselves into the 2x2 Noah's Ark style rolling start here in Florida, as the surrounding area around the Hard Rock Stadium will echo to the roar of GT3 power. Bearing in mind, it's going to be a tough one out there. These walls do bite. There is no room for mistakes, no room for any unforced errors. If you drop the ball, beware of what it might do to your car. We are doing a full pace lap of this 3.36 mile, 19 turn circuit. Even with the more technical side of it being at the first sector and also in the last bit of the second sector, this could be the place where drivers might get caught out. But very shortly, the M2 Cup pace car will pull away into pit road and will be set and under starter's orders for 60 minutes of flat out, full throttle, unforgiving GT3 racing here on round 4 of season 10 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. Thank you to everyone watching on the Racer Nexus broadcast network. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Also, don't forget we are now on Instagram as well. So just type in Racer Nexus in the search engine and you'll find us there. Lights are off on the pace car as the 200 Force teammates are ready to help get us underway. So the pace car pulls off into the distance, into pit lane. We're ready to get the revs up here in Florida as Miami is going to witness a hell of a 60-minute encounter. It's Griffin and Maynard on the front row. Ruiz and Santos. Here we go. And look at the start there by Christian Ruiz. He absolutely got the whole shot there. He was fired like a beating bullet out of a gun. He's just tangled with Dan Griffin. Oh no, and Lakenshaw's been collected. Several other cars. Jace Larson has got around, and there are cars all over the shop. Lakenshaw's in the pits. Jace Larson, Dan Griffin. They have all tumbled, and all it was, Christian Ruiz's start was absolutely mint. He launched it, he waited, he timed it perfectly, and unfortunately it was unstoppable force versus immovable object, and Dan Griffin, for the second race in a row, has had a big old drama, and Jace Larson just cannot catch a break this season so far. But Nicholas Maynard versus Christian Ruiz, Xavi Santos in P3. He's got Ryan Anderson and the fast-charging man from Australia. And here we go. Maynard has got Ruiz to his outside. There is Santos and a new paint job. Very Miami-inspired, if I do say so myself. But the man from Sydney, Australia, for Evolution Sim Sports, Henry Fenson, already up from P7, now rounds out the top 5. So, hopefully very shortly, we'll just keep an eye on what's happening now as, clash with the wall by Ryan Anderson, the right rear fender, clatters into the wall coming out of turn number 16. A little bit of open rotation on the back axle by the High Point Racing number 46. But look at this, Ruiz, he's got the inside line, he's got the draft, And it's the run down to turn 17. They're rubbing paddles. Maynard keeps it to the outside. Ruiz does not press the issue any further than he absolutely needs to as they come out of turn 18 into turn 19. Maynard comes across the line to lead us over lap 1. And with a 2-minute .835, not at all a surprise that Christian Ruiz is right on his rear diffuser. But I think probably very shortly we're going to take a look back at what happened at the opening exchanges at the race start. Let's have a look at it. So you can see here, Christian Ruiz on the left-hand side of your screen gets a wicked start here at Miami. And then he just has a little wobble on the back end, and then Lakenshaw straight into the front of Dan Griffin, and Dan Griffin gets hit by Andrew Davis. Insult to injury. Lakenshaw looks to be out of the race already. David Henry is in pit road. Chris Edwards, our AM pole sitter, is also in pit road, and there's further. And Jim Peel has just dropped the ball in the number 49. This could be a big rate of attrition in this race, but Matt Mitchell closing in and has just got through. That's on well, he's through on Ted Seidel. He's got Dan Griffin in front of him, so Dan Griffin in the 101 100 force Ferrari right behind Andrew Davis. Thomas King has dropped the ball as well in Rexy the Mustang. Oh, they're dropping like flies at the minute. The first 3.5 minutes of the race, an absolute madness has struck here at MIA. But luckily enough, Thomas King not assisting with Rexy the Mustang, not Rexy the Porsche, Rexy the Mustang from getting into the barriers. But some people have found to not be that lucky. Chris Edwards and David Henry, they must have towed it to the garage. They're in there for quite a long time. Dan Griffin now back up into 14th place. He's lost all that hard work that he did. He put it on pole position, and Christian Ruiz, with the slightest of touches, turn him around, and I think it might just be considered possibly as a racing incident, but that is down to race control to make that executive decision. But nevertheless, Nicholas Maynard is opening a lead over Christian Ruiz to the tune of just over 0.7 of a second. And my oh my, has the GT3 cat been thrown amongst the pigeons here in HPR GT World Challenge tonight. But nevertheless, Ryan Anderson and Xavi Santos, look at this, the top 4 are covered by just under 1 3/4 seconds. I do like the livery on Xavi Santos's car, very much Miami Vice kind of vibes on that. Just thinking of Don Johnson and a Ferrari Testarossa all of a sudden, with the old rolled up jacket sleeves, round neck t-shirt collar, and the loafers with no socks. Back then when the 80s were cool. You had Miami Vice, you had Knight Rider, you had the A-Team, Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, and I still even remember, folks. This is going to surprise a lot of people, but Ben Stiller from Tropic Thunder was a guest star on an episode of Miami Vice. It's not exactly good as they were in his later years, let's put it that way, in Night of the Museum with the late great Robin Williams. However, this is going to be a bit of a slipstream fest, because Javi Santos with that 5.4 litre Coyote V8 powered Mustang to the inside of Ryan Anderson, giving the man from the USA, hip proper. If you wanted NHL with Wayne Gretzky right now, that would probably be a shoulder check into the side of the ice rink. And Xavi Santos holds on to P3 for the briefest of moments, but Ryan Anderson says, well, you could do it, I could do it better, and he's back through for P3. But yeah, look at that. Xavi Santos just emblazons Miami in the iconic italic neon text amidst that wonderful cornucopia, that smorgasbord of colour on that Ford Mustang. That looks glorious, and it just goes to show how impactful liveries can be here in the world of sim racing. But we are 6.5 minutes in. Let's give you a bit bit of an update at the moment. David Henry and Chris Edwards are still in the pits, and I think if they've got a significant amount of damage, I'd like to see what actually happened with regards to Henry and Edwards earlier on, because it might have been that they came together. They have both dropped a significant amount of time, and more to the point, that just goes to show that I did say at Miami. Right, let's have a look at a replay coming up very shortly. And this is what happens. Okay, so there is Chris Edwards in the 88, and it's David Henry, the 22 for. Oh no, that's more than just dive bomb. That's hope and pray, and be on a wing and a prayer. They both end up nose ended the barriers off of turn number 17, but David Henry was clearly at fault on that. And, well, not at all surprised that knackered the steering on the right front of Chris Edwards' Merc. So Chris Edwards, all that hard work that he put in qualifying has just been thrown under the bridge like water, and it's like a secondary thought. It's there 1 minute, gone the next. So that is a real shame. So it looks like we have got, I'm wondering if Chris Edwards is back actually out on the circuit. David Henry has not. Looks like he's called time on it after nearly 5 minutes stationary in pit lane. So Chris Edwards is about to be lapped possibly again. So he's a lap and a bit, nearly 2 laps down off of Nick Maynard, who has pulled a gap. And Christian Ruiz at the moment is Mr. Consistency. There is the 88. Started in 18th place, now runs 23rd. And more to the point, that is 6th overall. So David Henry and Lakenshaw, I'm afraid to say, folks, are the first 2 retirees. Lakenshaw out on the opening lap after contact with our good friend Mr. Dan Griffin. 2 races in a row for the number 101, and he has just absolutely been caught up in incidents, sometimes not of his making. Nicolas Sanchez in the number 2 Porsche being hurried up by the number 14 of fellow Pro-Am driver Will Atom. This is going to be coming through out of turn 10 into 11, which is a left-hander coming up. Can the BMW and Porsche into this heavy braking zone? Sanchez with the inside line. He's not going to give that up without a fight. Runs a little bit deep, goes off the track. That could be a slowdown penalty for the number 2. So Will Atom now has close company. Andrew Davis, Thomas King, Nicholas Lancios, and also the number 69 Lamborghini, Matt Mitchell, now up 7 places, is the Canadian, having started 24th on the grid. And it is becoming a bit of a slipstream fest early doors here at the Miami International Autodrome for round 4 of the series. So can Will Atom stretch the legs on that wonderful twin-powered turbo 3-litre inline 6-cylinder engine car? Meantime, Brian Anderson trying to hold off the advances of Brazil's Javi Santos. So still very much lots to go in this race. Meantime, Christian Ruiz has just taken out 4 tenths out of Nick Maynard, and actually that was Christian Ruiz's best lap of the race at 1:55.050. And the big question will be is that when will drivers decide they're going to stick the car into pit lane? Also, just a quick reminder to our viewers out there, well, what do the winners in each class get? They each get a 1-month subscription courtesy of IMO Setups, our title sponsor, and that is for Pro, Pro-Am and Am. You can see that Christian Ruiz taking a very different line to Nick Maynard going through into that part of the circuit, so they can roar past the camera. Camera vibrating quite significantly as they go past it and head into the braking zone into turn 11. Now through 12. And it's a bit of a tricky one coming up now as into turns 14 and 15. There's Donald Powell versus Ken Clodin, P3 in the GTD Pro Am division. Lights ablaze on the number 6 car of Clodin. Last season ran in the McLaren 720. Nicknamed Clodin 1 because it looked, well, they did have He did have XO1 written all over it and the Ghostbusters sign as well. I was just waiting for Slimer to be let out of the ghost trap that was in the back of the car, but unfortunately my wish was never granted. Thank you. Nevertheless, Donald Powell in the 86 car. He's run with that livery for a couple of seasons now, so that's his trademark, so to speak. Very nice individual as well, but still as with a lot of the drivers here at High Point Racing, is again Santos trying to get the over-under done on Anderson for P3 overall. Of course, Ryan Anderson running with the same number that a certain 9-time motorcycle world champion runs with. Of course, Il Dottore Valentino Rossi now running in said wagon. The BMW M4 GT3 Evo, running with Team WRT, and I think he's gone back to, I think he's running in Le Mans GT3 now in WEC, or he might be back in GT World Challenge. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that man is definitely a wonderful person to have in the world of sports car racing. Army Golf BC, Jace Larson needs to bathe in salts and burn some herbs or something. Damn! Sorry, I channeled my inner domination. Xavi Santos in the meantime. He has definitely got the fire lit in the belly in the Miami-style liveried Ford Mustang, but Anderson, again, it's a bit like Glock and Paffett in DTM at the season opener in 2018. Mercedes versus BMW, but it's Mustang versus the mites of Munich. And look at this into turn 14, Santos, oh dear. Anderson, you've got to give that place back, I'm afraid. He's going to get a slowdown penalty. That was definitely a cut on the chicane. But Xavi's, oh, they both got a slow. So Santos and Anderson both get a slow down at the same time. And, well, it's all kicking off here at P3 overall. Nevertheless, what an entertaining battle. And the good thing is, with 48.5 minutes completed, 13 minutes and 30 done, Dan Griffin now closing in to the outside of the backstretch, heading into turn 17. Donald Powell lets him go, and Ryan Anderson has just hit his incident point limit, and that means car 46 has got to serve the trundle of shame down the pit lane. Okay, drive-through penalty. What 3 words assigned to that? And this is not helping him, but Christian Ruiz has dropped the ball. He's 4 seconds off, and he's right in the clutches of the 2 behind. And here comes Santos again to the inside on Anderson. The Mustang is nose ahead of the Munich machine. And what a move. Xavi Santos. That is bold, that is brave, that is beautiful from the Brazilian. And he gets through for P3, but Anderson is going to be kicking himself like nobody's business. But a moment there for Santos. One wheel onto the painted white outside curbing, and he nearly loses the back end of Dearborn's finest. But nevertheless, we have got a true race on our hands, despite the fact that Nick Maynard is now 3 seconds up the road from Christian Ruiz. What a drama we've had. Anderson's got a black flag penalty. Ruiz dropped the ball and lost time behind Nick Maynard, and now he's struggling to fend off the man from Brazil. Of course, it's 2 South American nations, Puerto Rico and also Brazil. This is, and I can tell you this, the amount, it's a bit like Forest Elbow coming out of turn 16. Forest Elbow at Mount Panorama. You scrape that wall, especially with that front end, you are going to absolutely go, why did I just knacker the steering? Why did I just knacker the upright? If you're hitting it with the rear axle, that's even worse, because if you break a drive shaft, and Santos now through at turn 17, can he get the move done on Christian Ruiz? Yes, he can. He got it done. Brilliant job there by the man in the Mustang. So, Xavi Santos overjoined us a couple of rounds ago and made an impression last week at Circuit Zandvoort, and now here at Miami, it seems to favour that naturally aspirated 5.4 litre Coyote V8. And of course, for those wondering about the origins of why the Coyote V8 ended up turning into a 5.4 litre engine, well, that was thanks to the people at Cockermouth at M Sport, who run the Ford factory WRC efforts. They were tasked alongside Multimatic to give the best performance for this car, which is the basis of the road-going Mustang GTD. No pun intended there, folks, of course. But, oh dear, now who was that just smacked the barriers? That was someone... Oh dear, Ian Morrison has just walloped the wall in the Merc, and that was Scott Farrell going through. So Ian Morrison smacks the right side of the Merc into the barriers. But, well, Xavi Santos, now you've got to try and scarper away from Christian Ruiz. Don't worry about Ryan Anderson, because he's got to serve that black flag penalty, let's not forget. And through into turn 14 and 15. Nice and neat and tidy by the pair. Make that the trio. Look at that. Oh, did you see? All I'm going to say is, folks, did you see how sideways Christian Ruiz was ending up coming out of turn number 16? It was like Maranello madness. Unfortunately, there's, you know, it's crazy how close these barriers are. And we've seen so many drivers, including Ryan Anderson. You know, they've more than scraped the paint off. They put it right down to the body of the point, well, let alone the primer. But nevertheless, with 42.5 minutes left to go, this race has got battles up and down. And I'm going to talk you through a couple of them. We've got the 3 on our screen right here, but Anderson's basically been eliminated out of it because of his black flag penalty. So he needs to serve that, otherwise he's going to get excluded from the session, unless that black flag has been cleared. Donald Powell, right, close and personal for P3 in Pro-Am. That's 10th and 11th, 9th and 10th, 7/10ths apart. Will Atom versus Thomas King. That is the battle for P11 overall, 7/10ths apart. Nicolay Sanchez and Andrew Davis, Pro-Am versus Am, 6/10ths apart for 14th overall. Then Ted Seidel and the recovering Jim Peel. And that is Ken Clodin going off. And, oh, that was definitely more than a case of going sideways. That was in front of Donald Powell, and that has given... Oh, he lost it big time. That was a big old slide, and he lost it again. Talk about cantilever sideways for the Cavallino Rampante. Oh, my goodness. Ken Clodin. That could have been a lot worse than what it looked like. I'm sure that something puckered up then. Co Brown, clean up on aisle 3, 4, and 5. And you need the industrial side, not the squeegee. And again, Christian Ruiz and Ryan Anderson so close to the wall. But the big thing is, I'm wondering, Anderson hasn't served that black flag penalty yet. He was one of the first to be given the black flag by the iRacing service. And if he does not serve that, that is going to be if he does not serve it, the server will automatically disqualify him. And that could be a real problem. Ryan Anderson would end up with a no score here at Miami as Chris Edwards keeps out of the way. Good play there by the 88. So, I mean, the thing is, the thing is that Christian Ruiz is fighting with someone who he does not need to fight against. And the thing is, with the black flag penalty, you know, if you don't serve that in real life motorsport, if you don't serve that in the ordained time schedule, you're going to be the one that gets pulled into the steward's office and being told, why did you ignore the black flag, or why did you ignore the drive-through penalty that you were issued? Because normally it would be a drive-through penalty for something like that if you've gone past track limits too many times. Or in some series, like Porsche Sprint Challenge Suisse, you've got the 3 strikes rule. You get a first, then a final warning, then the third infraction on track limits. You get a 5-second penalty, and for everyone subsequently afterwards, you get a further 5 seconds. So if you have a total of 7 track limits on a circuit in a Porsche Sprint Challenge Suisse race, you get away with it for the first 2. After that, a further 5, that's 25 seconds penalty post-race. But Anderson, sparks flying from the... and he's clattered into the wall again at turn 16. And Christian Ruiz is like saying, what the heck are you playing at? But behind them, well, Chris Edwards has been given the flashing treatment by Henry Fenton, the man from Evolution Sim Sports, the man from Sydney, Australia. The wonder from down under, I think I'm going to nickname him from now on, because he's been a real credit to the series since he joined last season in Season 9. Had some great battles with the likes of Alessandro and Lucia Tosi from Galaxy Team Esports. Of course, Lucia part of the Screen to Speed movement. pilot, and oh well, it's come through. Ryan Anderson has just effectively, I've just been informed, that is it. Ryan Anderson is disqualified. That's it. He's out. Ryan Anderson, it's game over, I'm afraid. So the server has called time, and well, now the big thing is that with that, Ryan Anderson is now going to tumble down the tower, but if he did not notice, because he was so entrenched in that battle with Santos and Ruiz, sometimes that can happen. You're caught in the heat of the moment, and then all of a sudden, it's sort of like one step forwards, two steps back, in the words of Paul Rabdul, of all people. If anyone might remember the song "Opposites Attract" back in the day when she was at the peak of her powers as a singer-songwriter. But to be honest with you, I can understand that there will be some frustration for Ryan Anderson, but the only person that could say could have done something a bit better would have been himself. And in all honesty, I can understand that there, like I said, frustration is going to set in. He's going to be kicking himself as if to say, why didn't I say it? But then might pipe up about why, you know, there has been, you know, sometimes with technology, it doesn't always work in your favour. But nevertheless, that's it. Game over for Ryan Anderson. So there's going to be no points possibly on the board for the number 46 High Point Racing car. That's a real shame. But nevertheless, it does mean that Xavi Santos has now pulled away from Christian Ruiz to the tune of nearly 2.5 seconds. And that gap is starting to expand. More to the point, well, how quickly can Xavi Santos catch up to Nick Maynard? Because that Mustang looks mustard around here, looks really strong, especially down the straightaways. And bearing in mind, Nick Maynard's last run through the speed trap was 255 kilometers per hour. That was 158.9 mph. Xavi Santos, 265.2 kph, which converts to 164.8, so nearly 6 miles an hour quicker is the difference. So the Mustang has got some legs on it, and it looks like with that steed, Xavi Santos is more than cantering forward. He's galloping at a significant ultimate pace. This could be the difference over the next few laps of this particular encounter. Just over 35.5 minutes to go before we hit the checkered flag, and there is Nick Maynard making his way through out of turns 14 and 15. Sparks flying from the right front splitter as he catches the undulation. There is Xavi Santos. All I can say, the Jaws music is now starting to ring in both my eardrums, because that Mustang is absolutely flying. Nevertheless, Xavi Santos, despite battling away with Christian Ruiz before the number 7 dropped a little bit further back. Well, Xavi Santos last time did a 55.67. Maynard a 55.50. But it's a long way to go. We've got a long way to go, but a short time to get there. Meantime, Jace Larson, round on lap 1 in the Red Bull Ferrari 296 GT3. He has recovered, and more to the point. Oh, Henry Fenton. Henry Fenton has had a moment, and he's reversing. He's doing a J-turn. Oh, talk about Lee Majors and the Fall Guy. My goodness me, it's like B.A. Baraka. Oh, right, that is moment of the season so far. So we're going to see here now. This is going to be car 19. Oh, well, well, he spun. He spun in front of Chris Edwards. Ruiz Padilla gets through. So does Dan Griffin. Griffin's gone into the pits. Henry Fenton. Right, watch this. Knight Rider 1980s. Michael Knight, eat your heart out, because Henry Fenton's done it better than you. And goes straight in the pits. Job done. Dan Griffin exits out of pit lane in 15th. And that is Nicholas Lancier's powered by Sonic the Hedgehog. Just waiting to see if anyone's going to bring a Tails or a Knuckles livery to this championship over the next 6 weeks of running, well, not including the 1 week break that we got. Scott Farrell has pitted in the number 34 Pro-Am McLaren. Dan Griffin, where are you going? That's going to give you a slowdown penalty, buddy. He's got to be very careful here. He's going to fling it to the outside as we now go through turns 8, 9 and 10. You're giving each other a very, very... Oh, that was so close, Dan Griffin. Side by side with Nick Lanciers. That was nearly echoes of Senna versus Mansell at Barcelona back in 1991. Literally millimetres apart, and Griffin makes the move. But, display of the season. I'm going to say this. Henry Fenton, take a bow. You've earned it. Style points 9.9 and a 10 for execution, my friend. Well done. Right, another driver with the next driver with a black flag, Scott Farrell, and that is for more than likely going to be a pit lane infraction. So it's either speeding in the pit lane or he has crossed the white line on exit. That is the only reason, or unless he was close to his instant point limits and on cold tyres, cold brakes, went off the circuit, exit stage right or left. But yeah, Henry Fenton, not shy of showcasing what skills he's got behind the wheel. He was battling tooth and nail with Lucia Tosi, like I was saying a bit earlier, last time out on season 9, well, season 5 on the IMSA side of things, and also season 9 of GT World Challenge. Of course, like I said, Lucia, part of the Screen to Speed movement, the program for sim racing for female drivers, initiated by multi-time motocross champion and a very proud Italian, Steffi Bau, who I've had the pleasure of working alongside and also getting to know. And her work continues to grow in leaps and bounds in the sim racing space. As we see the battle here between Jace Larson and Ken Clodin, the two Ferraris, battling over 7th overall. But Jace Larson has been consistent on his race pace, round about the mid to high 55s, as it's the hop, skip and a jump through turns 14 and 15 at the chicane with the bollard on the right hand side. Nevertheless, and Scott Farrell has decided to come in, and that's not what he really wanted. Came in for his pit stop, a black flag straight away, hit him in the face like a wet kipper as he came out of pit lane, and unfortunately that is 2 trips down to pit road, and that is not going to help him. Meantime, there's Donald Powell, who is ahead. Nicholas LaFrance in the number 19 Pro-Am entry has gone into pit lane, but meantime Ken Clodin gets through on Donald Powell. Jace Larson decides discretion is the better part of valour, heading into turns 1 and 2 and 3 before the S's here from turns 4 to 7. Turn 7. Oh dear, and looks like we've had a bit of an accident, and this is going to be, oh dear. That's car 51, Nicholas Lanciers. What's happened to Sonic? Don't tell me he's missed his braking point. He's off straight on, and well, yeah. Sometimes that can be a bit of a drama whereby you think you've got the anchors thrown out of the back of the car. But unfortunately, that is not the case. We've gone halfway, so let's give you a reminder of our sponsors here for the High Point Racing GT World Challenge season number 10. First up, our good friends, the title sponsor, Hymo Setups. And don't forget that each of our class winners in every single one of the 10 races here in season 10 gets a 1-month Hymo subscription. Monster Designs also on the sponsor list that we can't forget to mention, providing some great designs that we've seen over the course of the past few seasons in IMSA and also GT World Challenge, as Ken Clodin is getting the hurry up from Jace Larson. Admin Box, Smile Theory and Colorist Art Supplies are your sponsors of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. And don't forget, this coming Thursday 9 PM Eastern, The next round of Season 6 of the HPR IMSA Series will be in action live here on Racer Nexus. But more to the point now, we are past the halfway point and, well, fastest lap of the race on lap number 15, Dan Griffin, our pole sitter, a 1:54.839. Thomas King in the number 3 Rexy Mustang pulls into pit road for his designated pit stop. In time, Jace Larson now up to P5. And Rexy, well, he's up on his jacks at the minute. Andrew Davis now comes in from the AM Division class lead. That is going to promote more than likely Ted Seidel up to P1 of the number 53 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2. Striking livery there on Ted Seidel's car. He crosses the line and he is gone up the order. Henry Fenson, after pitting on lap number 13, is slowly but steadily scything his way up the order. But nevertheless, Nick Maynard, Big Nick, is still in pole position and is in complete control. 4.8 seconds ahead of the charging Brazilian Xavi Santos, who has pulled off some daring round the outside Slim Shady style overtakes to get himself up into P2. But at the moment, the might of the Mustang unable to challenge the Ferrari, but Nick Maynard might want to watch that wall that he's just struck with the right side of that Ferrari as Xavi Santos goes, right, I'm going to pull in now. Might not be a bad decision for the Brazilian in the 589 Ford Mustang GT3. Rumbles down pit lane, started P4 did the Brazilian, and now, oh dear, that's speeding into pit lane, I think, for Xavi Santos, and that is going to cost him. That is going to add an additional 35 seconds to his pit stop, which at best might be no more than 25 seconds, so that is going to hurt. That is going to smart after what was such a brilliant battle between him and Christian Ruiz. Carlos Ruiz Padilla, in the meantime, is leading in Pro-Am, and the number 20 car is staying out. Now runs P3 overall, and he is 9.5 seconds behind his countryman Christian Ruiz in the number 7 Ferrari 296. So some of these drivers are going on the... Now when you think about it, Jace Larson at this moment is now P3 in the Pro Division after that stellar recovery from what happened early doors. So Xavi Santos, yeah, he's going to be, I am sure that the air is absolutely blue on his microphone. 62 seconds. So Christian Ruiz has just dropped a big amount of that lead, and this is behind one of the Mercs. And oh, he's just, oh, no. No, that is not how you overtake, I'm afraid. I think that was a little bit the sign of, well, there's a phrase that I use quite commonly where there's a sign of desperation and there's a sense of urgency. That, to me, might have been a little sign of potential desperation, but sometimes it doesn't always end up being the case. It can be the fact that sometimes you just misjudge it. If he'd opened up the steering maybe a little bit on corner entry, I think he might have got the move done. But on that point, unfortunately, he did not. Carlos Ruiz Padilla now pits from the Pro-Am lead. He's third overall. He's made up 7 spots so far tonight. And there's more drivers going in. Ken Cloden comes in the number 6 Ferrari. Who's going to be the next one to pit? Because we've still got Jim Peel yet to pit, Ted Seidel yet to pit. Carlos Ruiz, Ken Cloden, Nicolas Sanchez, Will Atom. They have all come in on the same lap, lap 18. But it means that Nick Maynard, Christian Ruiz, Jace Larson and Donald Powell yet to pit. Dan Griffin now has rotated through the pit stop cycle up to P5 and finds himself about 51.5 seconds behind the race leader. Now, bearing in mind, it's not the quickest pit lane here, because a bit like Brands Hatch, before you actually stop, well, you hit the pit lane speed limiter, coming down pit road, It's very much like Brands Hatch. There is a deceptive chicane entering into that part of the track. And then you're coming out at turn 2. It's a bit like it's a bit like exiting the pit lane at Silverstone, only the thing is that you're not going up an incline. And, right, that was Jim Peel. And now, that looks very, very close to me. Will Atom has got a black flag now. Oh, dear. Ted Seidel has just come out of pit lane. Black flag. And all I'm going to say is Jim Peel caught... Now, I saw that, and I wasn't going to mention it. I was waiting to see if something come up. Jim Peel crossed the pit lane exit line on exit. The left side went across. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to have a look on a replay here with Jim Peel, because he definitely crossed the line of pit road on exit with the left side front wheel. So Jim Peel has got to serve a penalty. And he's not the only one. Will Atom has got to serve a penalty. Ted Seidel, drive-through penalty. And this is what we're seeing now. It's like you get a drive-through, you get a drive-through, you get a drive-through. Right, let's see what happens with Jim Peel. Comes out onto the working lane, so we're going to stay in the cockpit of the number 49 car. Right, now can start accelerating. Okay, now he guns it. Watch. Crosses the line. Crosses the line. I knew it. I knew it. It was just like sometimes you have to do a double take. But unfortunately, let's see. Jace Larson, please don't do the same. Donald Powell, watch your line. Right, that perfect from Jace Larson, perfect from Donald Powell. No black flag penalties for them. But it looks like I think that Atom, Seidel, and Jim Peel, I think they all did exactly the same thing there. Oh dear, right. Nicolay Sanchez has just got a black flag. Oh dear. It's okay, all I'm gonna say is right, here comes the meme. You get a black flag, you get a black flag, you get a black flag, you get a black flag. I'm just gonna say, out of the season and a half that we have covered of HPR GT World Challenge, I have never known a race where so many drivers have come out of pit lane and instantly black flag, black flag, black flag, black flag. It's going to be a running gag at the moment, but that's the thing with a tight circuit like here. It is not an easy exit. You're coming out of turn 2 and you're going straight into the run of traffic as well, so you've got to be very mindful of your P's and Q's. Nevertheless, we are on board now with Nicholas Lafrance. Started down in 11th position, runs in currently P4 and is leading in the Pro-Am division. But hot on his coattails is Carlos Ruiz Padilla, the man also affectionately known as the HPR Overlord here. I wonder why. Well, he's part of the organising committee, and him and his team do a fantastic job of getting some great quality drivers involved in both series. Of course, coming up there is the forthcoming event. I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's going to be August the 22nd, I believe. Just trying to remember from memory, because I slept a lot since the last round. So has Sagar, to be honest with you. So at the minute, I'm like thinking, okay, right, try and give the old memory banks a bit of a jolt. And it will be the fact that with regards to it, it is the 6 hours of Road America. It will be broadcasted live, and that's at August the 22nd. There are cash prizes available for the winners and a 1 month HIMO subscription membership for the winners on the team. So yeah, you can head to SimGrid. It's presented by the American Racing League Simulation and High Point Racing. So don't forget to get involved. Spaces are filling up, as I'm aware. So coming down to the final third of this race. And, oh, well, that was a bit of a mistake there from Nicholas Lafrance, and that is Carlos Ruiz Padilla through. Dan Griffin now up into P3 overall. So change is afoot. The pendulum swings once again here at the Miami International Autodrome. And, oh, that was a little bit of a stumble. Now I'm wondering with regards to Nicholas for France if he felt a little bit aggravated, a little bit unhappy. There's so many words that I could probably think of that I can't actually mention on air because it's unbroadcastable. But the air would be blue. But I think he's been feeling a bit hard done by. So whether Mr. Ruiz Padilla might have been a little bit overzealous with an overtake, well, it depends on your definition. They do say that rubbing's racing, but GT3 racing is meant to be a non-contact sport. Very much in the same ilk if you can apply that phrase to karting. But nevertheless, La France has got the red mist down. I'm waiting for the high beams to be flashing in that BMW momentarily because they've got to watch out because look who's there with the big old fog lights on full whack. That is Jace Larson in the number 1 Ferrari 296 GT3 running in the Verstappen simracing.com colours. And, well, Jace Larson, like I said, he's not had a great opening 3 rounds to the season, but maybe he can get a little bit of a redemption here at Miami as we ride on board with the man himself. Currently sitting P4 at the moment because Ruiz and La France are battling over the Pro-Am class lead. Dan Griffin now up into P3 and he is closing in on Christian Ruiz. Last time round he took half a second out of him. And the elbows go out with the standing knives attached for Carlos Ruiz Padilla. Nicholas La France unable to get through. But at this tight part of the circuit, well, anything's possible as long as Porsche does not do Porsche things. Through turns 13 and 14 over the dip. And, I think Chase Larson just, that is giving me Norris Ring PTSD vibes from DTM. Like, how close was Chase Larson to that wall? Probably the wingspan of a gnat from end to end of both wings. Jace Larson, that was just millimetre perfect on how close your proximity of the right hand side of your GT3 wagon can get to an outside wall. These walls here at Miami, they have no give. They don't say sorry when you've gone off track and end up spiralling into them, maybe by contact through another individual behind you whilst you're battling for a place on the track itself. Coming up to the 16-minute mark left to go, we're on board with the number 19 Porsche 992 GT3R of Nicholas La France, closing in on Carlos Ruiz Padilla. This is for the Pro-Am lead. They've got Chase Larson right behind them, so this trio covered by just under 0.8 of a second. As we are officially on lap number 23 out of a potential 29 or 30 laps here at this 3.36 mile circuit. As they say, the hits they keep on coming. Andrew Davis holding on to the AM lead, and he is currently running P11 overall. Started in 20th did Andrew Davis, so he's looking possibly for another victory here in this series. But of course, some of the drivers that we do have here in GT World Challenge will also be in action this coming Thursday, 9 PM Eastern for HPR IMSA Series. That's also been quite a fruity championship as well. That's about to get closer and closer to its mid-season break. Obviously, with HPR IMSA, we have GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD. And you can see that the battle lines have been drawn, but at the moment the war is not being won. So there you see, that's being us, your broadcast team, myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Sagar Bakshi, our producer behind the scenes. It's a real pleasure for us to be with you through this live broadcast here at the Miami International Autodrome for round 4 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. And it will be for the foreseeable future on Sunday nights, 9 PM Eastern. That'll be just coming up to around about 2 in the morning British summer time. But still the battle between Ruiz and La France. Ruiz Padilla and France, I might add. still very much undecided. Just under 14 minutes remaining on the counter, and Dan Griffin is closing that gap to Christian Ruiz. So what a recovery. Turned around, front end knocked off of the 101 100 force Ferrari 296 GT3. Dan Griffin has weathered the storm. He pitted on lap 13. So my biggest concern for him is that, okay, he may not have had all the fuel in the tank that he required, but if he still had some surplus, that might help him in the longer game. Nevertheless, that'll help him in terms of catching, maybe even potentially passing Christian Ruiz. But the thing is that Ruiz, Padilla, La France and Larson, they are bumping over the curbs with reckless abandon. What can that mean in the not too distant future? You can look too heavily for the overtake, or possibly the maneuver into a technical and very tricky chicane at turns 14 and 15. And here we go. This could be the opportunity that he needs. La France to the inside of Ruiz Padilla. And that is going to be very close indeed. They're now wheel-to-wheel. Porsche versus BMW coming out of turn number 18. And into 19. And across the line. Carlos Ruiz Padilla holds his line. Down the start finish. Into T1. And Nicolas de France, he runs a little bit deep. And Carlos Ruiz Padilla straight away on the power early. Can he get through? No, he can't. De France covers him off neatly through turn 2 and 3. And Jace Larson is rubbing his hands, has a smile on his face bigger than the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland at the moment, saying, I'm really enjoying this. Please just have a little bit of elbows out between you two. I could do with maybe another couple of spots up the order, and that would help him in terms of trying to get some clear air to chase down Dan Griffin. Both the 101 and the number 1 respectively, they've done effectively what we would like to say in the United Kingdom, especially when you refer to karting. Henry Baudet, name check, doing a top gear from the rear. They've gone out and qualified, they've been turned around or had dramas in lap 1, and they have not let that faze them by any stretch of the imagination. They have decided, right, we know we're quick, we're now going to show our speed to everybody else without giving too much away. And there is a bit of a silent art when it comes to being a little bit of a tyre whisperer, especially if your name was Checo Perez in the Racing Point days, before you won in Bahrain and then ended up getting signed directly the season after. But 11 minutes to go, gaps are starting to shrink in terms of battles. La France versus Ruiz Padilla versus Larson. They're covered by 1.1 seconds. That's the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Battle for 8th, Ken Clodin versus Thomas King in the number 3 Ford Mustang. So good battling between these two Pro-Am drivers for 4th in the class. Then we go down a little bit further on the order, down to 12th position with the number 49 of the GSI emblazoned Ferrari of Jim Peel, who has family ties via bloodline to the Isle of Man, the home of the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy, one of the fastest and craziest road-going races in motorcycling apart from the Northwest 200. And if you know your motorcycle racing, you will have an appreciation for that event. Always wanted to go there and actually watch when they go through a corner called I think it's the nickname of it is Ballascary, and they're going through it at about 175 miles an hour at full throttle open. So Jim Peel holding off the advances of the GTD Am class leader Andrew Davis. Could pick up his 2nd win in 3 races. Just missed out to Travis Stevens last time at Circuit Zandvoort, but boy was that a race, and it all came down to the last lap around that North Sea located circuit. But we are now into the final 9.25 minutes here at Miami for round 4 of season 10 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. Coming on board with Nicholas Lafrance, who has managed to pull a little bit away, but Carlos Ruiz Padilla is starting to close on in, but being half a second back will hurt him more than it will help him at this time. So, coming towards the final 6 of the race, let's give you a top 3 rundown in each of the respective classes. Nick Maynard leads the way in the number 100 Force Ferrari, and he is 15.8 seconds ahead of Christian Ruiz in the number 7 Miami Tribute livery band when it comes to Formula 1 liveries. But a good call by Christian Ruiz to bring a little bit something different to the party. And Dan Griffin in the sister 100 Force car, number 101, is a further 2.5 seconds back and rounds out the top 3. In terms of Pro-Am, it is Nicholas Lafrance versus Carlos Ruiz Padilla. They are running 4th and 5th overall. The gap between them is about 5 to 6 tenths of a second. And then after that, P3, currently in the hands of the number 86 Chevy Corvette. Great job so far by Donald Powell in this race. Then we head to the top 3 in GTD. Up 7 spots from qualifying, 20th overall, now runs 13th. Is the number 25 Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3 of Andrew Davis. Next up after that, in terms of the GTDs, it's Nicolas Lanciers in the Sonic the Hedgehog Porsche number 51. And then after that, Edgardo Gomez in the number 37 Acura NSX GT3 Evo 22. Rounds out the top 3 in the class, 17th at this moment. But we are into the business end of this round of the series, and Nick Maynard has really not had to worry that much or that often in this race. To have to keep on looking behind, having eyeballs in the back of your stalk. But what a drive by this number 100 Force car. And as I say, it's quite easy to spot which car is which, because that car there is the one mainly white with green accents. Dan Griffin's is the invert, mainly green with white accents. Oh, and that is not what you want to have happen there. I'm sorry, but Nicholas Lafrance's ping is not helping him at the moment, and he does not want to start blinking in front of Carlos Ruiz Padilla, considering this is the fact that this is the Pro-Am class lead, and with 6.25 minutes left to go, there is not going to be that much time remaining. And considering the fact that we're running on a 155.4 by our race leaders, Nicolás Sanchez, has just come in the pits, and that is more than likely going to drop him well out of the top 5 in the division. Now, is this going to... I've got a feeling this might be a little bit of a wee splash and dash. Yes, 4.6 seconds. Nicolás Sanchez completely dropped the fuel, dropped the ball when it came to fuel in the car. So if he pitted early, he will have been watching that fuel gauge like a hawk over the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes of this race, because as soon as that fuel gauge gets low, you start getting a little bit concerned. As, right, okay, there is Morrison. That is going to get a black flag, I think it was. Ian Morrison, the number 18 Mercedes-Benz. And, that is going to put him even further behind Edgardo Gomez on this particular occasion. But still, looking at the list that we have got at the moment, David Henry is still running. Javi Santos has decided after pit stop number 2, that's it, no bueno, don't want to do anything more. And that car, let's not forget, was running pretty well here at Miami. But we still have just under 4.5 minutes remaining. Nick Maynard now 50% of the way through lap number 29. So at the minute, these drivers seem to be drawn in at the rear wing. They do say that with magnets, opposites do attract, even though that you find one magnet, if you put the positive to the negative, you're not gonna get that contact and where the magnets stick together. However, 3 minutes and 45 seconds to go. Nick Maynard is about to complete lap number 29. After that, 2 to go. And Nick Maynard, once again, for another round in the series here at HPR GT World Challenge Season number 10, he has quite literally been the unstoppable force, and no one has been able to become the immovable object and then find out if E equal MC squared actually does work in real life based on those two predicaments. But still, we've got Ken Clodin. This is for the P5 in P4. Hang on a second. No, P4 in the Pro-Am class, because Thomas King in Dearborn's finest is trying to close him down. And at this time, this juncture, the straight line speed, the straight line waft of that Ford Mustang is only capable of doing so much, and especially when the tyres might be falling a little bit off the cliff coming into this final stage. And more to the point, there has been some great racing up and down the order. There continues to be great racing up and down the order, and we did start with 25 runners. Looks like we have only got a small amount of retirees, the biggest. So Javi Santos, Henry Fenton, Ryan Anderson and Lakin Short, those are the 4 names of prominence. But nevertheless, Nick Maynard is very soon going to bring us on to the white flag lap, because he is 80% of the way through lap number 30, as Carlos Ruiz Padilla and Nicolas Lafrance are battling away. This is for the lead. That's car 19 versus car 20. Maynard now crosses the line as we speak. White flag in the air. Final lap has officially been confirmed. And for Carlos Ruiz Padilla, he cannot rest on his laurels. He needs to go for this move once it becomes presentable to him, to facilitate it, get past, neat and tidy. That is very much easier said than done, because Lafrance covers off Ruiz. And again, just some drivers opening up the steering a little bit coming out of that that corner out of turn number 17. But still, nevertheless, these drivers now coming onto their final lap. But what a run it's been. Nick Maynard, he wasn't 100% sure how things were going to go tonight here at the Miami International Autodrome, as sunset starting to duck in over this 3.36 mile circuit. But Maynard tonight has not put a foot wrong so far. He has kept his powder dry. Dan Griffin, his teammate, it could have been a potential 1-2 finish. How that would look in real life, I really wouldn't be able to answer that question. I'd have to see it for myself. But nevertheless, Nick Maynard is coming down the backstretch for the 31st and final time, as we now hit 60 minutes on the clock. That is it. Round 4 about to come to the inevitable crescendo that you wait after Beethoven's 7th Symphony has been ringing in your ears for 60 minutes. But look at this. Nick Maynard, once again, a race winner here in Season 10. He picks up the win here in Round 4 here at the Miami International Autodrome. Relatively untroubled, but look at what we have got here. Dan Griffin, can he make it a 1-2 for the team? It's going to come down to the wire, but Christian Ruiz, despite dramas for the number 7, can he hold on? Yes, he can. Christian Ruiz takes P2 ahead of Dan Griffin. What a recovery drive back from the number 101 to take P3 overall, but the battle for P4 overall and the Pro-Am victory. It is between Nicolas de France and Carlos Ruiz Padilla, but the Porsche is going to wing its way to victory lane here in the Sunshine State of Florida. Nicolas de France wins Pro-Am in round 4. Great job by him, but then we have to keep an eye on what else is happening, because Andrew Davis, he's on course for a victory. Aston Martin, the only Aston on the grid, is still circulating, but he is coming out of turn number 14 and 15 for the final time. Nevertheless, Andrew Davis, this will be 2 wins out of 3 appearances, and Andrew Davis is bringing Gaydon's finest to victory lane. He's all the way down the backstretch, halfway down it at the moment. But what can you say? Maynard wins in Pro, La France pips Ruiz Padilla in Pro-Am, and Andrew Davis is going to be on cloud 9. Forget Studio 54. When you've been in the mire for a 60-minute encounter here at the Miami International Autodrome, you want to taste that champers, because Andrew Davis, out of the final corner, he becomes another winner that has taken more than one race victory so far this season. What can you say about that? Miami, the heat is on, as they said in Beverly Hills Cop, and I'm not going to start with banana in the tailpipe. Get the banana out of my tailpipe, man. But nevertheless, here we go. Nick Maynard wins once again ahead of Christian Ruiz and Dan Griffin. Ferrari ruling the roost here in Pro. It nearly was 100 force 1-2, but Christian Ruiz denied that by nearly 0.2 of a second. Dan Griffin P3. Jace Larson recovers to finish in 4th in the division ahead of Javi Santos in the number 589 car. Henry Fenson, Ryan Anderson, and Lakenshaw out early. Nicolas de France wins in Pro-Am ahead of Carlos Ruiz Padilla and Donald Powell, making it Porsche, BMW and Corvette on the podium. Ken Cloden and Thomas King round out the top 5 ahead of the likes of Will Atto and Jim Peel, who did have dramas of their own. Nicolas Sanchez with the black flag. Matthew Mitchell and Scott Farrell round out the 10 drivers in that division. And Andrew Davis takes the win ahead of Nicolas Lanciers and Edgardo Gomez with a P3 for Mexico. The Acura hits a podium for probably might not be the first or the last time here tonight. Ted Seidel denied a podium thanks to a black flag after pit lane activity. Ian Morrison, Chris Edwards and David Henry round out the runners and riders in that one. Well, Miami brings the heat, but tonight this race definitely delivered. But more to the point, it is going to be the fact that we are going to have a half-term break after this one, because the series will return in just 2 weeks, because season 10 is going to have half term, so school's out for the summer, indirectly speaking, even though yes, we are nearly in the middle of August. But we are going to give it a minute or two before our our winners in the respective classes make their way down into the interview room. But you know what, I'm going to get this man to unmute his mic like he did at Imola. Sagar Bakshi, good evening. What a mad race here at Miami, buddy.
As they say, that was a cracking race. Holy Toledos. I was screaming from the green to the checkered flag. My throat is hurting. Alex's ears are ringing at this point. It was amazing just to sit back and watch the battles unfold, to see the recovery drive from Dan Griffin, Jace Larson, to see that determination come out of them was just phenomenal. Donald Powell climbing up 6 positions overall to get a podium out of this tonight. Absolutely phenomenal drive from him. An unsung hero for sure. And who can forget Andrew Davis, Matthew Mitchell, both of them with positive gains on the evening. But Andrew Davis coming home with the win in the category as well.
Yeah, we'll just give it a minute or two more. I would like to speak to our top 3 drivers that have taken the victory here at the Miami International Autodrome before we go on our half-term break. But nevertheless, we want to say a big thank you to everybody that has been watching along here today, because it will be Road America. Let's just give you, before we go to our interview show, kindly supported by Admin Box, let's give you a reminder of the calendar coming up, because after 4 rounds, HPR GT World Challenge takes a break for 2 weeks, so we'll be back on the 23rd of August at Road America, Suzuka on the 30th of August, Laguna Seca showing up on September the 13th. So that is going to be another. So there's going to be 2 weeks where the drivers are going to have a little bit of a respite, despite those that are running in HBR IMSA Series 6. Silverstone, which will be the second of the 2 double points rounds, will take place on September the 20th. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard at the road course, will be on the 27th of September. And the hills of Mount Fuji, Fuji Speedway on October 4th will conclude the 10-week calendar. Now time to turn our attention to the Admin Box post-race interview show. And the first thing we've got to do is bring this man in. He's done it again. It's the wizard, the one, the only, Nick Maynard in the number 100 Force Ferrari. Nick, you've done it again, mate. I mean, Dan just does not seem to have lucky number 7 or Lady Luck on his side, and you're picking up the pieces and running away with things. What's going on, man? Congratulations.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, appreciate it. That's tough to see. 2 races in a row, kind of getting spun like that. That makes it tough. And then, it just kind of makes for a little bit more simple on my end, unfortunately. And I don't know. I just hate seeing that. I was looking forward to a good battle. Dan had a lot of pace here tonight, and I was kind of okay with P2 tonight. But just gotta take advantage of anything that comes your way, and I did a good job of not throwing it away. So it's racing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Miami isn't exactly the most, let's say, comfortable track to race at, especially with the fact it's on a non-permanent circuit that's only up a few times a year in real life, obviously with the F1 Grand Prix, and of course being the home of the Miami Dolphins. But still, to get around this track for 60 minutes, you must be perspiring like nobody's business at the moment, because it's a hard track to race at as well. You got high speed corners, low speed corners, mid range corners. You got a long back stretch, and you've got eyeballs out in the back of your head as well, haven't you?
Yeah. No, this place kind of throws the whole gamut at you. I've only raced here. I think this is maybe my second or third race, and I remember I was kind of avoiding this track because I was like, I like Long Beach. I don't want to do another street circuit. But man, I'll tell you, all throughout practice, I was just enjoying hot lapping here. It's got good flow, and I tend to enjoy the more technical tracks, the ones that kind of make you lock in, and if you lose focus, it'll hurt you. So it kind of suits me in that way.
Well, Nick, congratulations on another victory. Of course, now you're starting to run away with things at the moment. We are waiting for some glitches to be sorted out, reference the points. Obviously, we know that you're at the sharp end. But before I let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to tonight to dedicate the victory to here at Miami?
Yeah, 100 Force team, teammates, and then just everybody kind of watching, tuning in on the broadcast, and everybody that puts on the show. It's a awesome group here, and it's fun to be a part of.
Brilliant. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time here in the Admin Box post-race interview show. We'll see you after a little bit of a breather, because we're back in 2 weeks. We'll see you at America's National Park of Speed for the halfway point of the season for week 5. Well done tonight for the victory.
Thank you, sir.
So big thank you to Big Nick Maynard, our winner of the overall side of things. But, well, it was nip and tuck for Pro-Am, but it is the number 18. Nicholas LaFrance joins us. Nicholas, welcome into the admin box post-race interview show. Winner in Pro-Am. It was nip and tuck between you and Carlos Ruiz Padilla, but you put Porsche on the top step of the rostrum, and more importantly, to victory lane here at Miami. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was a great race. I mean, Carlos had it for me since probably like the second half of the first stint, and then he got some pace off that, went in pit. I think he fixed a little bit of damage too, he was telling me, and then it was just a great battle.
Yeah, it was next to nothing. I think less than half a second across the line, but still, I think the thing is, I thought it was going to be kind of a bit of a race of attrition. We had multiple big hitters, like say Dan Griffin, Jace Larson, striking trouble early, especially on lap number 1. But for you to take a P4 overall finish, that's your highest overall result. And also with that, you take the victory in Pro-Am. How does that feel, considering this is a really tough circuit to navigate?
I honestly enjoy Miami. I raced it a little bit on some other games, like Assetto Corsa and the F1 game when it like first got released. I've really loved the track. It's just like a very flowing street circuit. You do have some overtaking opportunities, and I've definitely put some hours in on the practice this week. So,
Well, at least the good thing is your Porsche was not doing Porsche things like they sometimes do, and it was definitely a weapon in your hands tonight. Of course, we're going to be back in a couple of weeks, so it gives everyone a little bit of hiatus from the close competition here in season 10. But before we let you go and enjoy the spoils of victory with a well-needed bit of hydration after a sweaty 60 minutes behind the wheel of the sim rig, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
I just want to thank also High Point just for doing this league. It's honestly like really well done. I'm really enjoying this. I mean, I'll shout out my fellow competitor of Carlos because he was very respectful. I did have one moment where I stepped out in the S's, and we just kept it going for the whole race pretty much.
Brilliant. Well, Nicholas, thanks for chatting to us here in the admin box post-race interview show. We'll see you in 2 weeks at America's National Park at Speed, Parker Speed at Road America. Well done on the W tonight, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
And to round off our admin box post-race interview show, he won back at round 2 at Imola. He's a winner again here on the streets of Miami. Andrew Davis, welcome into the booth. Man, that was a crazy one. I think Chris Edwards, we have to sort of, our heart kind of goes out to him up here in the commentary box, but he put it on pole, but you managed to weather the tornado that was the Miami International Autodrome, because it wasn't easy out there tonight.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy, and yeah, Chris definitely had the pace this race. He probably should be up here, but right place, right time, I guess. So we'll take it.
I mean, how was the Aston handling around here, especially on the the back part of the circuit going through from turns 8 to 11, where it's a very, very high speed complex, and you've got to have that setup where you've got that nice balance of handling and also top speed. How did it work out on compromising for the setup on the Aston Martin tonight?
Well, if I could actually hit my marks right every lap, it worked really well. I made a lot of small mistakes out there that pushed me offline, but once I got it right, it stuck really well.
But still, another victory to your credit, and not a bad way to finish as well. We did see that there was a big rate of attrition with some of the heavy hitters. I mean, we saw Chris go out early, Lakenshaw, David Henry, they all went out early. We've had it where some of the pros have just been wrong place, wrong time, whereas you seem to be shining brightly in the AM category. What's one of the big factors that you bring that down to? Just keeping it pointing in the right direction on the black stuff.
My main focus is just trying consistency and no incidents. I knew incidents were going to be a big thing this race, especially with the walls and all that. So I tried to keep it as safe as possible, keep as minimal incidents. Turn 1, lap 1 almost ended it for us, but I was able to cut it wide around whatever happened up there, and I kept it clean the rest of the race to stay out of all the incidents. So that was the big thing that got the win, I think.
Brilliant. Well, Andrew, congratulations on another win here in Season 10 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to in particular for tonight's victory?
Shout out to the High Point Racing crew for putting the series together. Obviously, they've done fantastic. Hymo setups, great setups. Like I said, when I was getting it right, it was sticking good. And then I also want to give a shout out to my friends here in Evansville at Fastest Lap Sim Racing Arcade. Without them and their help over the last few years, I wouldn't be here. So big shout out to them as well.
Brilliant. Andrew, congratulations on picking up your second win in the first 4 rounds of the season. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the halfway point at Road America. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our admin box post-race interview show here on Racer Nexus for week 4 out of 10 for the High Point Racing GT World Challenge as the dust settles amidst Miami here at the Miami International Autodrome. But in 2 weeks' time, we head to America's National Park of Speed. Road America is going to be the next stop on the calendar, but you're going to have to wait for a fortnight for that to take place. It will be on the full road course at the iconic circuit that really hasn't changed over its decades of operation. After that, we'll then head to Suzuka before another fortnightly break before we head to Michelin Raceway Laguna, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, the home of British Motorsport Silverstone, Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course, and Fuji Speedway to close out season number 10. All of our winners tonight pick up a 1-month Hymo setup subscription, and a big thank you once again to our sponsors of the league for High Point Racing GT World Challenge, to Hymo Setups, to Monster Designs, to Admin Box, to also our other good friends in terms of the sponsorship side of things, Smile Theory and Colorist Art Supplies. You've been in the company of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, on commentary duties, with Sagar Bakshi behind the scenes as our producer. Well, that's it from us here. And until next time, we'll see you in 2 weeks at America's National Park of Speed. Stay hungry out there, folks, because there's always time for glory. Good night.